everyone, and welcome back. This is Mindy Eggen, and in today's video I am going to be creating this clean and simple card, but focusing on the design concept of white space. This is something I learned from Cathy Zielske, and I will link her information down below so you can check her out as well. A quick look at the supplies I'll be using today are products from Gina K Designs. I have the large stamp set, Your Own Kind of Beautiful, the Art Deco stencil, and then I have some cardstock here. I have white, and I believe it's sea glass, black onyx, and then the Obsidian Amalgam ink and the Embossing ink from Gina K Designs. I'm going to start off by stamping my image. I chose this simple image of the 3 cactuses, and I'm stamping that onto white cardstock using my Misty tool. This is the Mini Misty tool, and it's a collaboration between My Sweet Petunia and Hero Arts. That's why it has the black rulers around it. And I'm stamping this image in the Obsidian Amalgam ink so I can Copic color. I'm going to color each of these cactuses in a different shade of green. I will have all of the colors listed at the top of the screen here. This first set is G29, G17, and YG06, and I'm coloring it whereas the light source is coming right from the front, so you can see the lightest area of my cactus is right in the middle. Now for the second one, I am also using the G29, G28, and G07. Then my third set of greens that I'm going to be using for that last one, and this one's going to be G29, G17, and YG06. And like I said, I'll have all of these colors listed down below in my video description and over on my blog as well if you ever want to reference back to these. After I finish coloring that last cactus, I'm going to come in with some pinks to color in that flower. I'll be using RV29, RV14, and RV13, and then I'm going to color the pots of the plants. And I did these all in the same color just for simplicity's sake. So I have E18, E19, E08, and E97. Now you don't necessarily need to use 4 colors to color them. That is just my preference because I like to have a lot of contrast when I'm doing my Copic coloring. And as you can see, I'm leaving the highlight area in the middle of the pot. So that's showing that the light source is coming from the front. I tried to keep that pretty consistent through all of my Copic coloring, and it also kind of gives you the illusion that the pot is round. So I didn't want to have the images look too flat. After the pots are all colored, I'm going to come in and color those little strips on the pot. And I'm going to use just a few variety of the BG colors from the Copic line. I didn't write them down so I don't have them in front of me, but I will try to list them once I get back to my desk and finish editing this. So I'll try to list those colors for you. Then I'm going to line up the coordinating die that goes with the set. I'm going to hold it in place with some purple tape and run that through my die cut machine. Now I'm going to add a little interest to my background by dry embossing the stencil onto the white cardstock. So I'm using the sandwich that is recommended using my Spellbinders Platinum Die Cutting 6 machine, Platinum 6 die cutting machine. I'm starting out, I have that base plate. I added a rubber mat, then my paper, then the stencil, and then the embossing plate. So that is my sandwich. And I'm going to run that through the die cut machine, and it's going to emboss that stencil onto the background. I have a couple oopses during this video, and I'll explain them as I'm putting the card together, but here you can see how beautifully embossed that stencil is. So that gives another life to your stencil, and if you know me, you know I love my stencils. So as I was filming this, I couldn't miss Gina K's live the other night, so I have her on off on the side while I'm filming this. I'm going to work on my sentiment, and I'm just doing that by prepping my black cardstock with an anti-static powder tool. That'll help minimize the amount of embossing powder that's scattered across the cardstock. And I'm using a sentiment from the stamp set Wrapped in Love. I really liked this skinny strip sentiment, so I lined that up in my Misty, inked that up with the embossing ink from Gina K Designs. I'm going to sprinkle on that white embossing powder, and so the embossing powder should only stick to that inked area since I prepped it with that anti-static powder tool. And then I'm going to heat set this with my heat tool. After heat setting, I like to take a Swiffer cloth and just kind of brush over that, and that just removes any of the excess powder that was there. Then I'll take the Tim Holtz paper trimmer and I'm lining up the bottom of my words with the edge of that plastic guard that's there. And I'll flip my cardstock and do the same thing. I'm lining up the top of the words with the edge of that plastic guard, and this is going to give me even space around my sentiment. And then just trimming off the edges to make that into just a skinny strip for my card. Now, a couple things I had done as an oops. This is my first one. I used the Master Layouts 1 die to trim down my embossed panel. Problem one is that when I ran that back through my die cutting machine to cut out that panel, I flattened my embossing. So that's why you can't see it very well. So my suggestion is if you are embossing, either trim the panel down with your paper trimmer or have it cut already to the size that you want. That way the embossing stays in there really, really nice. It still has some detail in there, so I didn't really want to waste cardstock and redo it, but if you really want that embossing to stand out, that's what you would need to do. Then I just layered cardstock behind my white panel that's the same size. It gives dimension to the card and even coverage behind it when I want to mail that. So you can see there's some nice dimension to the front panel. Then I'm just going to add my cactus to the front of the card with some foam squares from Gina K Designs. And a little bit about the white space I had mentioned earlier. So white space is something I do struggle with. I always kind of feel like my card is naked if I don't add a lot to it, but I love the look of it. And white space is just kind of helping keep your focal point. So my focal point are the cactuses. Now, one thing also to keep in mind is white space doesn't have to be white. We didn't even have to emboss that front panel. We could have just added it to the colored cardstock. So white space just really brings that focal point to attention. A few other things about white space that I learned from Cathy Zielske is it gives your eyes a break. Now, if you've watched me before, you know I go very bright and bold and out there and in your face kind of colors. And sometimes it is really nice to just take a break and just be very soothing. So when you come across this either on a blog or in an Instagram feed, it's just very calming. So that's another reason for having some white space. Now I'm finishing off the card by adding a few drops of the clear quartz solid mix from Gina K Designs. I used the Connect glue and my tweezers to do that, and then I'm just topping it off with some of the crystalline drops, and I will have all of these supplies linked down below in the video description. Here's a quick close-up look of those beautiful crystalline drops and that embossed background. I hope you enjoyed today's video and this clean and simple card focusing on white space. I would love if you became a subscriber to my channel and share and like this video. Thank you so much for stopping by today, and I'll see you next time.